One of the most important articles we've put out in recent times is up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, our news websites. Why the banking elite want riots in America. Civil War II, the economic imperative for mass social unrest. And that ties in to, of course, people calling for civil war and the killing of police in mass on the so-called left and the praising of their hero, Chris Dorner. Whether this is a real story or not, it has a lot of telltale signs that it is real, but they won't let a good crisis go to waste. You better believe that. But again, that's coming up at the bottom of the hour. Now, we're also streaming video at InfoWarsNews.com or PrisonPlanet.tv. We'll also get you there. And so I want to show viewers some numbers and a basic equation here. But as I break down the fact that America and the West are being deindustrialized and economically imploded by design. And this is what Agenda 21 is all about. And knowing this can turn everything around. If we can ever have a real debate with the ruling political class and the minions they're buying and selling, then it can be game over for them. But let's explain something. Throughout history, and this is covered in the book that we sell, None Dare Call a Conspiracy, that was out of print for a long time, by Gary Allen, who was working with people like Larry McDonald in Congress and others to expose this, that a tiny, tiny elite, not 2%, but much smaller than that, is anti-free market, and that everywhere they get in control throughout history, it's the same oligarchical system of crony capitalism, crony insider monopolyism. Every time they get in control, the middle class disappears, a giant underclass is formed, and a tiny elite then segregates themselves into protected areas, walled cities within the city, controlling the general population. And this is the real political paradigm. In fact, if you're watching on TV, I want to show people an article here out of the London Guardian. It says, shocking figures reveal the growth in UK's wealth gap. The middle class is disappearing. The poor are surging in numbers, but a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction, they say 1%. I actually went and did the math on there. It's less than 1/10 of 1%, has seen a ultra-massive increase in their wealth. There's been a 18 to 19% drop in the poor in what they've been making, and a huge increase, depending on how you break the numbers down, in the so-called rich. And then the Organization for Economic Cooperative Development, that's what did the Marshall Plan. That's the banking receivership arm of the UN. That's the real global government. At the heart of it is the OECD. Key Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. They're on all the big global government treaties, you name it. They then criticize themselves and their own policies, offering socialism as the solution to no jobs, no economy, no system, where they've used regulations and bureaucracy to wreck everything. So there's just one example. Now the ultra, not even 1/10 of 1%. It's way past that. They want to blame the 2%. The local person that makes $500,000 a year, that's got boats, that's got cars, that comes to your restaurant, that buys clothes, that goes to the golf course, that actually has a business, runs things, has a bunch of employees, and then goes out and spends that money and flies to Cancun and flies to New York to see a play. That's who you want. You want more of those upper middle class, or new rich, nouveau riche, as the French call them. In every economy, that's who you want, because they have a tendency to grow and grow and grow and then lift up the poorest. The poorest people start living like the last generation's rich. Now, the globalists say this is bad for the earth. Let's not go shopping. And, of course, there's extremes in that. The wealth does eat up resources. The wealth does cause decadence, to where people get so wealthy, even the poor, they don't care anymore because they've got their cheeseburgers. So there's an equation there where this type of wealth does create a lot of slob behavior and spoiled, rotten kids. And so the elites sit there and they argue, hey, you got a bunch of people that are animals. We're soft killing them. It's come out. They don't care. Let's just go ahead and wipe them all out, and we'll enjoy the life extension, and, you know, we'll end war and set up a global government. The difference is the globalists throughout this entire program They're the ones putting out the GMO and the cross species and the super mutated insect viruses in the food and the zoological disorders cross species and the fission fusion and the antimatter reactors and the Black Mana Sabo armed drones and the particle beam laser blimp installations and all of this stuff that is statistically, I've studied it, absolutely, totally dangerous. And these people are not in control of it. But they're in a race with a few other elites. They don't want the Arabs to get the technology. They've got a double deal with the communist Chinese I'm going to get to in a moment. But they're absolutely in an arms race with themselves, and they're in control of most of the world, but they're not in control with their own internal power structures and the less than 20 families, 1,000 members of that, 6,000 servant superclass that aids them, according to the Kissinger Group, prospectus breakdown. Because they have to understand themselves. They publish books, they publish periodicals discussing themselves. Tragedy and Hope, Superclass, Brzezinski's new book. I mean, there's a bunch of them. And it's just all openly discussed there. How they're going to kill us and how they're going to take over. And I mean, you read stuff by Brzezinski written in the 70s, it's all come true. They're about 6-7 years behind, maybe a decade. But if you back it up, and they admit they're behind, and by the way, this is when they're talking to the CFR. They think you're so dumb. He goes on the CFR on television and admits all this. Just leaving tiny membranes of plausible deniability in there where he talks about maybe this isn't a good idea, maybe it is, but this is where it's going. Again, they tell you, Bill Joy tells you in the April issue 2000 of Wired Magazine, why the future doesn't need us. And again, I'm telling you, again, I don't deserve this, and you don't deserve this. I have had the establishment reach out to me over the years, and it's always off record. As a journalist, I can't talk about it, or no one will ever reach out to me again. Intermediaries, presidents, vice presidents, billionaires, you name it, well-known people, to like, Alex, I know it's bad, but you know the elite are bad? Look how ugly the public is politically and how they tear you apart. They hate you. You're never going to help them. You might as well join the establishment and try to work from within. How would you like a show on the national TV? How would you like book deals every, 6 months? How would you like to be, the next Rush Limbaugh? I mean, this is how the system works. This is how the system operates. People that have sold out to the system, they've heard this speech before. Oh, globalism's to raise the third world and to empower them, and sure, to lower our standard, but we want to lift them up. Then you get the actual inside IMF World Bank prospectus on how they were going to implement the treaty, because governments won't sign on to these, even if they know it's a con job for the public, unless they know the inside deal of what this treaty implementation means. Take the Copenhagen Treaty from 3 years ago at the UN Summit for Global Carbon Taxes. And the third world leaders got it and said, we're right at 195% or almost double the taxes of the West. You were supposed to destroy the West and give us the money, not raise taxes and deindustrialize the West, and then you were going to industrialize us. And see, and that's the public sale of Agenda 21, which is the global zoning rules of eugenics and the post-industrial economy, which on its surface you can say, hey, we shouldn't be so wasteful. We shouldn't be so slovenly. We shouldn't just buy things in some malfunctioning hunter-gatherer mechanism, off the home shopping network and pile your garage up full of junk you never open and crap you don't need. You see, they've got a good sales, but on the level. But this isn't a real debate about nations working together to have real goals and not be so slovenly and honoring men and women in our roles and building society. No, at its heart, it sells the mighty. It sells the virtuous. It sells the good on corruption and evil, but in the name of helping humanity and saving the earth. So that's my real indictment, is that this is a very ugly thing. Now, when we come back from break, I'm going to go over the statistics, but let's start doing this now. There's 7.5 billion people, roughly. Now, Rothkopf and the Kissinger Group, who I've interviewed on air, you look it up 5 years ago, they came on. And I said, why are you here? And he goes, well, I'd like to talk to you openly and, maybe talk some sense into you. Would you like to talk sometime off air? By the way, John Harmon was running the show that day. He was a witness to this. During the breaks, I'm talking to Rothkopf, and I didn't agree, didn't be nice with him on air. And he said, that's it, I'm never talking to you again. People say, well, get Rothkopf on again. You see, most journalists get to talk to people like that, or Lord Rothschild, or whoever we got on, the heir to the Rothschild, and you're supposed to just, they come on to see if you'll kiss their butt. The minute I kiss their butt, I'd be on a jet airplane paid for by them to London. By the way, I've been offered before by some of the most powerful people in the world to be flown to London. Is it not, my king, time to spring the trap?
No, we must desecrate the soul and the flesh of the Creator's creation.
The chain of life broken forever. A monument to our beauty.
All right. Now, again, this was the most important information I could cover, so I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're listening. We've got a part 1 of this report today up at Infowars.com. Tomorrow, part 2 is coming out. Why the banking elite want riots in America, Civil War II, the economic imperative for mass social unrest, where their own documents linked in this article. Linked in this article how they plan to make you poor and then cause riots and cause civil wars. They've done this all over the world to bring in even more control. But I'm telling you how the trick works. See, when you're a little kid and the magician's up there and it looks like, he really cut the lady in half or he really pulled a rabbit out of a hat. But once you learn the trick, you see it and you know it. And I'm here to teach you the trick, folks. I'm here to teach you what I've learned studying these people and studying history. And it's not hard. It's not like I'm guessing the trick. They all write manuals, white papers, government documents, public reports like you don't exist. Because they know you want to go watch the football game or go to the topless bar or do whatever it is you do or, go to church and hear some preacher worship the government instead of Christ. And they know you're not focused on this information. Now, I know our audience is, but I'm talking to all of the, I don't know, tens of thousands of new listeners a day. We're getting like 2-3 new affiliates a week. I want you to understand global government is a global crime monopoly of Ponzi scheme operators that have taken almost the entire world over through fraud. And they want to attack the 2%. That's all that's left of what they call the rich. And somebody making $250,000 a year, the husband and wife, that is not rich with a devalued dollar. Okay? Now, when your granddaddy's got, airports named after him, and you've got, you're on the board of 100 companies, and your wealth is tax exempt, then you're wealthy. That Forbes list is nothing, ladies and gentlemen. There are families leveraging, it's been estimated, the Russian press estimated when they arrested a bunch of oligarchs, the Rothschilds have leveraged, this is a decade ago, $300 trillion. $300 trillion. And they don't spend that. They use it as a political weapon. Now, let's go over the math here. Look at this. 7.5 billion people on Earth, roughly. 1,000, it's really less than that, members of the less than 20 families, okay? And it's only in those families a few people controlling the wealth. 6,000 super gophers serving them. This is all out of the Kissinger group, okay? Now, let's do the math of that. 1,000 people out of 7.5 billion. We're not talking about the 2% out of 100. So you've got 98 as the enemy of the 2%. And if they just didn't have that wealth, it's this 2% that comes to the golf course, the 2% that buys plane tickets, the 2% that comes to the opera. It's the bottom 99.99999% of that 2% that makes the world go round. Okay, they make the world go round. And the rest of the 20 or 30% below them. Okay, now historically, this tiny 1,000 out of 7.5 billion, they use feudalism to have managed economies so no one can challenge them. They want monopolies. Now, what is 1,000 people out of 7.5 billion is 0.0000001333333. So it's the 0.0000001333333 that we're talking about. And by the way, there are actually some people in that top little percentage that actually made their money off real things. So that's even discriminatory. But the majority of that wealth, of the 1,000 superclass, has been stolen or gotten through combines, okay? And these guys are the ones, every case, pushing globalism, pushing the 1.5 quadrille, how many zeros is that? 1.5, how many zeros are in a quadrille? I know it goes quite a while. 93% on average of that globally, this is even the Washington Post, is derivatives that they created that are not ours. Our national debt, 16, well, it's about to be 17 trill. 17 trill compared to 1.5 quadrille. They're telling us, too big to fail, we've signed on to this. We've signed on to the 1.5 quadrille, and then the media is sitting there knowing people don't pay attention to numbers. They're telling us that we owe all this and we're deadbeat slouches because of the 17 trill. And it's true, the debt's gone up 200 and something percent since Obama got in. They're trying to get us into some real debt. A quadrillion has 15 zeros? Or more than 50, yeah. Is it 24? I can't even keep track of this anymore. All right, we're going to come back and get into the meat of this, and then I promise your phone calls. Be patient. But now I've covered the background on this. I want to explain the fact of why the economy will never come back unless we arrest the globalist. ProPure is introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. This is the Pro One by ProPure. You wanted it, you got it. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It cuts out the acid derivative of fluoride. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. This is a revolution against the tyrants. They love putting the toxic acid base of fluoride into your water. They love the fact that it's an adjuvant supercharging the trace Prozac in the water and the hormones and the other chemicals. By cutting out fluoride, you cut out the turbocharger in all the poison being artificially introduced into your body. This is what I use. It's a win-win. You get a high-quality product at the lowest price. You support the InfoWar. Get your ProPure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. I am 110% committed, come life, death, hell, or high water, to defense of humanity, not because I'm a hero, but because I have life force. The globalists have not turned off my life force. They've not turned me over to their system of evil. They've not turned me against my own survival instinct. They've not taught me to hate humanity, as ugly as they've tried to make us, as much evil as they've poured into us. I love God and I love justice, and I hate the New World Order. Thank you for joining us. All right, let me finish up with this incredibly important information, then I'll go to your phone calls. And then in the third hour, we're going to cover the reported cop shooter and all that's happening and the push for a civil war in this country with an investigative journalist, Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof, who agrees with my analysis and has a lot of cogent points to add. You've heard him co-host the transmission before. Now, before we go any further here, let me just recap that the ultra-rich are monopoly men, and they are, out of the 7.5 billion people, they are 0.0000001333333%. And they've signed us on to their 1.5 quadrillion. That's actually a 3-year-old number. It's closer to 2 quadrillion or 2,000 trillion. And that's got 24 zeros. A quadrillion does 24 zeros on it. So we're talking about quite a bit of money, which is hundreds of times more than all the real assets in the world as they're currently valued. But the globalists have signed us on to too big to fail, and then they take $25 billion a month and pump it directly into that. Not to prop it up. They've already written that off. To destroy wealth, raising payroll taxes on people making $22,000 a year. I apologize. It's in CNBC today. I thought it was $30,000 and up. You got a payroll increase. I'm sorry. $22,000 a year. That is poverty by any mark in most areas of the country. I guess there's a few areas where stuff's so cheap you could live like that. And you count the property taxes and the rest of it. I mean, this is total enslavement and so cold-blooded. But that's because we have the most cold-blooded elite ever who sees cold-bloodedness as a virtue. Now, let's go over some of the articles here for people watching on TV. Radio listeners, these are all up at Infowars.com. China eclipses U.S. as biggest trading nation. I'm just going to read these headlines and then go back into them. China eclipses U.S. as biggest trading nation measured in goods, not in fake fiat GDP. Fed's holdings of Fed's, again, Fed's a lie. It's not, the Federal Reserve's not Fed. Fed's holdings of U.S. government debt hit record $1.696691 trillion, up 257% under Obama. People are like, wow, they're going to bankrupt us. They don't seem to care. We're going over a cliff. They've run it over the cliff in Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Nigeria, South Africa, England, Germany. They've done this everywhere over and over again. It's the OECD. It's the New World Order. It's their plan. And we have an article by Paul Watson and I up at Infowars.com. Why the banking elite want riots in America, Civil War II, the economic imperative for mass social unrest. Their own admissions of how they've engineered it. It's red-linked. Go get it. People are like, well, it's depressing. What's the point? Knowing this is coffin nails to the enemy. If you won't get up and fight back when their whole program's public, then we have no hope. Now, let's continue with these headlines. China eclipses U.S.'s biggest trading nation measured in GDP. Private Federal Reserve holds 1.696 plus trillion. 16, it just goes on and on. The Chinese buying, I don't know, was they got like 2 trillion or something? The Fed's bailout of Europe continues with record $237 billion injected into foreign banks in past month. Zero hedge from the Wall Street Journal. Did you hear that? $237 billion into foreign banks in just the last month, on top of $85 billion a month injected into the private Federal Reserve banks that are also the European banks. So add that in. And again, it's all just fiat. They're just injecting it to get you into debt because it's not real. Only the debt on you is real, enforced by all the officers wearing Darth Vader outfits. You notice there's checkpoints in Darth Vader outfits and you're going to stick their hands down your pants. It's all about, line up, slaves. It's all about you're occupied now. It's all about, you understand that? They're going to bring you down, just like they're doing in Latin America every 10 years. They did it in 2000. They're doing it again right now. They did it in 2001, 2002. They're devaluing their currencies again. They're doing it. They do it to destroy wealth. Only the globalists who are prepositioned come out on top. It goes on. This is it. China surpasses U.S. #1 global trading partner. Okay, so that's some of the economic news. 40 ways that China is beating America. Key article by Michael Snyder of American Dream up at Infowars.com. I want to cover some of that. How Obama is wielding executive power in second term. Again, the office is becoming a dictatorship, not the puppet who sits in it. The bureaucracy through it is becoming a dictatorship. The UN over the military, the executive orders where Congress can't see what the president's doing. That is a dictatorial action. How Obama is wielding executive power in second term. AP whitewashing that it's okay, saying he could use executive power to take the guns. Remember that? Obama to propose spending to boost jobs in State of the Union. More spending, more debt, not to actually get the economy going, which is bad enough because it causes inflation, but to give it only to select interest. Continuing, speech lays out next goals of saving the middle class. Venezuela sharply devaluates currency. Again, this is how they do it over and over again. Could Venezuela's mass panic buy soon be coming to America? As the devaluation accelerates, Britain's super rich, just keep getting richer. Again, Middle class disappears, the ultra-rich get even richer. Then they sick the dumbed-down poor people on anybody that even drives a nice car as if them driving a nice car hurt them. People with nice cars come to your business, dummy. Okay, let's continue. Why the banking elite want riots in America. Now, this is the big key article, and I'm going to get to that in a moment, but I want to break this down first. U.S. citizens brace for austerity impact. CNBC, they say the way to get the economy going is higher taxes, higher regulations, fines, fees, new state taxes, higher income taxes, people making $22,000 a year, massive tax increases. And Obama and his masters are laughing at you. The same global interests funded Romney and Obama. That's why the outcome is no different, but they went with Obama because everybody will just sit down who sees themselves on the left and accept torture, war, secret arrest because their guy's in there. I mean, literally, they want you dead. They're eugenicists who've got a black guy, part black up there, so he must be nice. I mean, it is, but again, it's all about surface. It's all about camouflage. You understand? I mean, they use military systems on you, and you don't want to admit you've been conned. I've had people I knew personally go, you're wrong. I'm getting $1 million from Prince Wabubi in Nigeria. And I go, listen, that's been out for a decade. That is a fake thing. Don't send them $5,000 for him to wire you $1 million. And they go, my ship has come in. You're wrong. And you know what? Those people are mad at me. It's happened to two people I know, one talk show host and one other. They're mad at me later and don't ever want to talk to me again when I'm proven right. Listen, there is no Prince Wabubi. Okay? Obama doesn't care about you either. It's like a Nigerian chain letter. Folks, it isn't real. Now, I know I'm a conspiracy theorist because I'm informed, I'm involved, and I'm telling you, look out. They want you gullible. Anybody that says, watch out, be careful, check into things, that's a bad man, a conspiracy theorist. But anybody that says, trust the government, go out and party, have a good time, get into debt, ha, 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 that's the good guy. Come on, folks, get out of the trance. I mean, I've repeatedly had people I knew go, man, I got this deal where he can get this money out of the bank. That's how gambling works, all these con games. And it's just any society in decline is obsessed with gambling and get-rich-quick schemes.